In this video, I will be demonstrating how to get started with Appi4 Spire. Appi4 Spire is a mobile app that you can use for on the go for salespeople, uh, as well for warehouse order fulfillment management. And I will be demonstrating how to get started by configuring your network to being able to access your Spire data from outside the network when traveling with your mobile device and the app. The first part to be aware of is that you need to configure your network so that Appi4 Spire will be able to access your data from outside of your network. So for demo purposes, or if you want to try it out, it does work to access your Spire internally on your network, which in that case you would go and just use your internal IP address. I will be demonstrating this, how to access Spire externally, so that will be via the public IP address. So the first part is the app is available in both the Google Play Store and also in the Apple Store. So you can just go and download it. And I will be briefly demonstrating how to connect to the data and then also log in little later on. But to start, first your firewall has to be configured. And on a server where you have Spire installed, I am in the Windows Firewall with Advanced Security module. And the first you will notice is that when you go and sort by alphabetical order, you will see two entries for the Spire API, TCP, and UDP. These entries are created when you install Spire on the server. And what these do is grant local clients access to your Spire server. And so they're both checked off as domain and private. Public is not checked off. And for the Spire API, to being able to access it from outside your network, you have to have public enabled. And so what I do is I create a new entry for port 10880. And under advanced, you can now see I've selected public as well. And so this now means that your server is ready to accept connections from outside of your network for accessing your Spire data for the mobile app. And so that's the first step on the server itself. The next step on the your firewall, that could be anything from Cisco to any other firewall that may be used. And that also needs to be configured for port forwarding. And the port forward that I'm going to demonstrate here is on an untangled firewall. And so here I have, under my configurations, I have port forwarding rules. And I've already created one rule, but I'm going to briefly demonstrate what a rule like this looks like. And again, this will vary based on the brand name of firewall you have, which may be anything from Cisco to anything else, even from your ISP. But all firewalls will support forwarding traffic. And so what I've done here is I've said my destination is local, my protocol is TCP, my destination port is 10.0880. Again, that's the port that Spire runs on. And my new destination is to my server ending in IP address 3. And again, on the port. So that's the port forward on my particular firewall. Again, yours will be different based on the name, brand name that you may be using. And so then the next step, what I like to do is I like to also create an A record, to use a domain name for accessing my Spire data. And so here in my example, I will be using this third URL on my list. And so what I've done is I've created a record, so spireapi.premier.com, and then the port, and then API version 1 and companies. And I will later on show on my mobile device here what that looks like when I add that URL to access the data. And so this will also work if you just use your public IP address. Instead of having a domain name, you can access your Spire data like that as well. If you are going to be doing this on a regular basis, then it's best to have a static public IP address. It's not necessarily required, but keep in mind that every time your IP address will change from your ISP, your internet service provider, you will need to then also use a different IP address. There's also services available like dynamic DNS services, and then you can go and set yourself up to using a domain name and dynamically have the IP address updated on a domain name if it changes on your server. So that's an option as well, but the best is to have a static IP address for your network, and that way you can access it always by using your IP address. And again, in my scenario here, I've created an A record. This URL just below here, that one is using the IP address only. Again, it works. And the way I've done it here is under my domain name, Appi4 Spire. Here are all my A records. And then what I've done here is I've created an A record for accessing the API. And that is for my top URL here, Spire API, appi4spire.com. And again, the port number and then the API endpoint for the companies. And so that is the basics for network configurations. And next, I'm going to demonstrate on my mobile device what that looks like. And I'm going to share my screen on my mobile device. And so here's my mobile device. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go and pull up my URLs here so that I can go in and add that to my app. And so as I demonstrated before, I will be using my third URL here. So what I've done in my mobile device, I've already installed the app. And when you initially want to start get going with the app, then you will also need to sign up for an account here. And so when I'm in the app, here you sign up for an account. It will require your first name, last name, Spire username, company name, and email address and password. And you'll get an email confirmation to activate your account. I already have an account, so I will go and log into my account. The password is for a development server, so there is no secret password here that I am sharing. And so I'm going to log in now. And so the first thing that I get is I get to my screen, my company screen. In this case, I already have a company in my list, so I will remove that. And now, so this is the screen you'll get when you first start using the app or when you first log in once your account is created. So I'm going to tap on plus, and this is where I enter my URL for accessing my Spire database from the outside. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy my third URL here and enter that into the app to access my data, Spire data from the app. And so I've entered my URL here now, including the port number and again, the company's endpoint for the Spire API. And so I'm going to go and tap now Get Companies List. And these are all the companies on this server that I have. And so I'm going to add my top company. And so now I am ready to log into the company. I've added this company to my list. I tap on this, and this is now where you will be using your Spire credentials for accessing your data. So it's the same credentials you would use when logging into your Spire data. And so I'm going to log in. Okay, so I'm logged into the app, and now you're ready to start using the app. So sales orders, inventory, customers, and sales history. So the modules that you can access. I'll be doing another demonstration video on the app itself in a different video. And that concludes this video for demonstrating how to access Spire from outside of your network by forwarding port numbers, by forwarding the Spire port and also opening up the port on your server.